If anyone listening to this has escaped any kind of trauma, anxiety, or mental health issues over the past 4 years, then lucky bloody you, as I suspect you will be in the minority. I know from correspondence that I receive daily, as well as from conversations with friends, that events that will have affected us all since early 2020 have taken their toll on many people. We don't often hear these subjects discussed in podcasts of Good Vibrations nature, however, so I want to redress that situation today with this show. And my guests are Ant and Kev of the Drake Michigan podcast. Welcome along, guys.
Thank you, Mark. Absolutely.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate. So I first came across Ant in 2021 in the final days of his pub venture in Croston, Lancashire. We then met again in August of this year when I was invited to speak at the It's Time to Rise festival near Leyland. And that was a great event. Really enjoyed that day. And I also guested on the Drake Michigan podcast that same weekend with Ant hosting. And I've heard many of their shows. I've heard Kev as well talk about many issues. So I thought these two guys were the ideal choice to have a conversation of this nature. So just before we get into some of these really heavy subjects, do you just want to let people know what the Drake Michigan podcast is all about, how it started, and how it got named?
You want me to jump in there?
You do it.
Okay. First of all, hi to all your viewers, Mark, and great to be invited onto your show, mate. It's a pleasure. Yes, so the crust of it is, at the age of 28, my life was going what I thought was very well. I'd come from a childhood of council estate, poverty, and all the rest of it, what people could wrap up in their story as trauma, if you like. And I'd gone on a mission where, you know, I wanted the nice things in life because I'd never had it as a kid. So I got on that thing of, and I'd always been an entrepreneur. When I was a bit younger, I'd set up things like a pool table and a fruit machine business as a franchise, which made me a bit of money. Redundancy come up because I was a qualified baker and I was always into food as well. And an opportunity to come up to own my own bakeries. And that was when I was about 23. So I bought my first bakery at 23. And then I went on and had the best part of a 10-year period of fantastic, built it up, earned really good money, my business plan was to plow everything back into the business because I wanted an empire of businesses. I wanted 30 bakery shops. I ended up with 3. And at the time, we had about 25 staff, and we were turning over a good turnover. So money was always easy to come by. I never used the money to have the luxuries in life. So you never would have seen me with the nice cars or the nice house or the holidays. My business plan was to plow everything in then so I could reap the rewards when I was older later on. And so my plan was by the time I'd be 45, I could retire, that kind of thing. Then a little bit of a fallout had happened with the mother-in-law, who was a silent business partner, and a few cracks and issues started to open up in the businesses. The third shop that we opened wasn't making as much money as we did. So financial pressure and stresses started to appear. So this is where I always say, if anyone always said to me, what changed your life and took you in a new direction? That would be my trauma, because I was going through a very stressful, difficult point in my life. And then while I was at work one night, just making bread, because we used to make bread fresh every night, I was joined by a young gentleman at the end of the table who basically leant over and said, "We're going to have some fun." Now, obviously, what makes that more interesting is because that gentleman wasn't real. He was a spirit or whatever you want to call it. And he, as quick as he come, he disappeared. Now, that sent me on a whole new, different path. At first, it sent me on a path where I thought I'd had some kind of psychotic episode, some kind of breakdown, some kind of what has happened to me. You know, I fell asleep at the table. So that was the reality and the rational side of my human experience, trying to come to terms with what has just happened, because I had never had any interest in anything like that. My background was always more atheist. When you're dead, and all the rest of it. So for something like this to happen, I was definitely looking more down the medical route and the doctor route for the answers. But a few things happened, and it took me on a completely different journey. A spiritual life started to open up in front of me. I was, I started off going off to like sort of spiritualist churches, and I started having these amazing experiences happening in my own life, which was both exciting and then become very fearful as well, because my whole life was taking a completely different change. So then through this spiritual experience, I was joined by a spirit guide called Benjamin Drake, who was a US Marine in America. And we looked him up and we found him. And that's a whole other story, what we share with other people. And, so, but the bottom line is, so the word Drake in the name Drake, Michigan comes from there. Now, through synchronicities and other events, and the fact that Benjamin Drake, the US Marine, was stationed just outside Michigan, and some other events that happened to me during this spiritual 3 or 4 year period in my life. So that's where Michigan comes in as well. So we ended up with this name, Drake, Michigan. So now the plan was, because this was back in 2008, 2009. So we thought our life, what you have to remember as well, when you have these events happen in your life, you think my feeling at the time was it must be for a reason. It must be important. I thought I'd found the golden chalice. I thought I'd found God and all the rest of it. But that couldn't be further from the truth. All it was a door opening to another way of learning and understanding stuff, which I'd never been aware of before. So it was sort of like what people class as an awakening, if you like, a spiritual awakening. So that definitely took my whole life in a different journey. And then at the time, myself and Anthony we'd always been good friends. I'd mentioned to a few things at him. His life was going through a difficult period at the time with divorce and everything, wasn't it?
Happy days.
Happy days. And so I'd mentioned...
Is there any other kind?
Well, so I just happened to mention to Anthony at the time, because of the stuff what was going on in my life, I said, do you know what, Ant? Ask your angels.
Honestly, Mark, it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard in my entire life. So yeah. I was really on my knees at that point financially. I'd moved out the marital home. She actually left me. I could go into a big story and I won't need to. But anyway, I left it with a marital home, me and my daughter, and I was struggling financially. I couldn't even find the money to put the heating on, and it was freezing house and blah, blah, blah. So Kev come round one night and he said, you need to ask your angels for help. And I was like, what on earth are you talking about? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Anyway, I did it. My daughter was in bed and I said it out loud. I can't remember exactly what I said, but the following day, as I was driving to my mum and dad's house with my daughter, my dashboard had 11111111 all over the clock. And then the center console was 1111 as well. And I thought, something wrong with my car, and I pulled over and I turned the car engine off and on, and the ones were still there. I drove to my parents' house. I sat down, put my phone on, looking through Facebook as you do, and then I see this thing and it pops up and it says, if you see 111, your angels are listening. I was like, what the hell is all this about? And interestingly, as I'm talking to you, it was 1111. Now, 1111 has been following me since, and it's his fault. Yeah. It's basically his fault.
Yeah. But the thing is as well, obviously, because this is not the show where we're going to delve into that. But at the time in my life when all these amazing spiritual experiences were happening to me, and like just in short, I'll just give you a brief recap. So I'd gone from someone who was like a non-believer and totally scared and thought things like most haunted programs on telly were a crock of crap, if you like, right? Which I still do, by the way. But next minute, I found myself like giving demonstrations to 50 to 100 people in audiences, giving them messages from their loved ones who have crossed over to the spirit world. So, and then basically front pages of newspapers. And then I was invited down to the TV studios down in London. And then I found myself on telephone lines. But I very quickly become aware of all the bullshit as well, right? And this is a big thing what's always been passionate with me, because when I went on this journey, I sort of put everybody on a pedestal, or sort of thought, well, if you're spiritual, you must be a good person, or you must be,
big mistake.
Yeah. And also I thought, well, and also you meet people who say they've been doing it for 20, 30 years. So suddenly you give them the respect, and so what you do is you think, well, you must know so much more than me, because, who am I? I've just had this set of experiences and I'm looking for answers. But what I quickly learned was a lot of the stuff that people were saying, you could understand where the skeptics come from, right? You can understand where they jumped all over and they say you're just preying on the vulnerable and all the rest of it. These people are as damaged as the next person, right? And I always say this, because I will be the most skeptical medium you will ever meet in your life, right? Because 98% of the whole subject is bullshit, right? But 2% of it, Mark, there's something in it. Now, it's that 2% what has kept me striving forward, looking for answers and trying to find out information and then pass it on to people and help people understand it.
Seeing as we're talking about it, which parts of what gets taught would you say are bullshit? Can you specify some
right, well, yeah, areas? For one thing, so what I used to do is, right, I know how the language of spirit works, right? And I know how it works for me. So when I used to go and see these people who would be in the churches or demonstrations, and you'd pay your money and go to these people in auditoriums and everything else, right?
Are we talking Derek Acora and Colin Fry?
Yeah, all them kind of things, like Colin Fry, yeah, and and you'd pay your money and you go, and they'd say, oh, I feel like I've got someone coming through for you. It's a male. It could be dad, granddad, great-granddad, great-great-great-grand, whatever, right? And I've got chest pains, right? I will tell you now, Mark, anyone who's connecting with spirit properly, that's bullshit, right? Do you really think the energy of spirit is going to come all this way and make all the effort it's going to make just to say, hey, you've had your hair cut, Mark, or you've got a bad knee, Mark, right? No, they don't, right? Spirit, they come. Now, for whatever reason, there is only so much energy. So what they do is they give you a validation to let you know that they're around you and try and get over the message to you, what's going on in your life at the moment, to try and help you. Because from spirit's side of life, they are looking down on us like us looking down on ants, right? They see things from a whole different perspective, our human perspective of everything what's going on in our life, all our worries, all our troubles. Spirit are literally like, they find it all funny. Like, why are you letting this bother you?
What you get from many of these mediums is very vague statements like, oh, you're going through some troubles right now. Whereas if the spiritual connection were real, would it not specify what the problems are? So it would say, oh, you can't pay your gas bill. I can see that. Or I can see that your daughter's fallen ill or something like that. Specific messages. What you get is very vague ones, which people make fit in their own lives. So you'll get a message like, oh, I can see you're suffering right now. And I see a man with grey hair. And then people think, oh, yeah, that sounds like my granddad. And he must be talking about this person. So you kind of make it fit your own circumstances. Whereas if the message were genuine, would it not be very specific, because the spirit world sees everything?
Exactly. Well, so what you've just said, Mark, there is a perfect example of what I would class as bullshit, right? Now, I refused to be part of that. Now, the trouble is, if you're part of the 2% that's trying to do it properly or genuinely, you're still going to get labelled with the 98%. So I took a decision after some negative experiences of what happened to me, which spirit taught me and I had to go through as part of my learning process. I decided to take the thing to walk away from it all, because I refused to do it like that. Now, what I would do is, so you might go and say you go and spend 30, 40 quid and you went and saw a medium today, right? And you go in a room and you'd be allocated, say, 30 minutes, right? Or if you're lucky, an hour. Well, again, so I would call bullshit there. It doesn't work like that, right? When it's happening and when it's happening properly, you need to sort of work with the client and understand what the message and language is spirit is trying to tell you, right? And then when it becomes good, so I've had just over the last couple of weeks, like this is a little example. So just over the last couple of weeks, we've had a few people come down to the studio and the office here who just wanted to have a discussion about, the whole subject. So the one woman, while she was talking to me, I knew somebody was around her. So straight away, I said to her, right, your uncle is here, right? So when spirit comes through, we don't have to say, I feel like I've got this, this, and this. Basically, So straight away we said to her, right, look, your uncle's here, right? Then he gives a few validations basically to let you know, look, he's been around and the people's names and that who he's been around and what's been happening. And then what he did as well was he said, say the 4th of April to her, right? So the woman in front of me then, she sends a text message to her auntie and said, when did Uncle Peter die? And while we sat there in front of her, she went 4th of April, right? So that's the kind of evidence what we want.
Same
right?
date as Martin Luther King.
Is it? No, there you go. So, and then the thing is, so what I try to teach people is, if you could understand the amazing intelligence of energy, which is spirit, which is, we're all energy. And when we cross over and we leave this meat suit, we're still energy. All the intelligence and information is there. Now, all I am really is a good radio frequency signal. Like I'm picking it up, right? So you're picking up bits, but it doesn't have to be useless, pointless bits. So another lady who come the other day, basically her dad come through. So I just said to her straight away, your dad's here. We don't have to say anything else. Why would spirit try to confuse you? Right? If it's a dad, isn't it? Right? So he comes through.
So say so.
Now, I tell you what gets me excited and what I love. So when I was watching how he's showing a dad come through to me, and the first thing he showed me was his pride and joy in his life when he was in the physical life. He showed me his motorbike, what he had when he was here. Right? Now, this is where the intelligence of energy is unbelievable. Because while he's on his motorbike, underneath his arm, he had a bundle of sticks. Right? Now, so to most people, like they would say, like they might not even realize what's happening there. But I know from my experiences, spirits are trying to explain something to me in that picture, in my mind, what they're showing me. So when I'm then speaking to the woman, she went, oh my God, that's so relevant. She said, my dad was a joiner and he always had a piece of wood under his arm. Right? Now, this is the bit what I love, because what Spirit had done there is he's trying to explain something to me to tell her. Right? So in my mind, when I'm watching what he's trying to explain to me, he's trying to say, look, I've got this bundle of wood. He's trying to explain because if he would have just had one piece of wood, I might have not even recognized that. But because he had this big bundle of sticks under his arm, I know he wants me to acknowledge to her. So as soon as I'd mentioned that, then she knew straight away. She went, oh my God, we always used to say. Now, this is where it got really interesting, because then he explained to me, he said, I used to be in the RAF. He said, but then he showed me. Now, this is where, again, I get more excited than the client, because I saw the flashes in my mind of Richard Branson and Virgin Airlines, right? Now, to anybody else, that might not mean too much. Well, it might be in another way, but anyway. So in my mind, as I'm watching this message from Spirit, I can see the Spitfires, but I can also see Richard Branson and Virgin Airlines. But I can feel that he's explaining to me, I was involved with the Spitfires in the RAF, but I never actually flew a plane. He was a virgin, right? So it's the pictures and the impressions, what they're putting on you, that you have to understand what they're trying to say something. So when I said that to the lady, she said, My dad was a mechanic in the RAF, but he never got to fly the planes, but he worked on the Spitfires. So I said, right, so now what we're doing is Spirit are confirming who they are. They're giving you good evidence, good validation, right? I said, but they're not coming through for that. There'll be a reason why your dad has come through today, right? So I said, so now what we need to do is go back to Spirit and we need to find out why he's come through. So we went back and we asked the question, and this is the other part. There's nothing wrong with going back to the energy and saying, what's the message? What do you want to tell her? From that, he was putting like feelings and visions in my mind to explain to her. And this is where at the beginning, it never made any sense. Because at the minute, when it first started, what I was seeing, I said to her, have you got family over like in America or Australia, the other side of the world, right? And she went, no, it doesn't, I don't understand that. Now, the thing is as well, so that never made sense, but I know Spirit are trying to explain something to me. So that's where the breakdown comes through. Because if you've got someone who's like getting messages, but they're just saying random shit, then that's not the message. So then what I'd said was, right, give me a minute then. I need to work out what he's trying to explain to me. And what I did was by showing me the other side of the world, he was telling me a distance, a big distance had been created in this woman's life, right? That's what he was showing me. And then from that, so I said to her, do you not get on with your sister and your brother-in-law? And she said, no, we've not spoke for over 10 years. We had a big, massive fallout. Then I knew that's what your dad wants. That's what he's talking about. That's the distance that he's talking about. Because obviously that would have been his daughter as well. So she said, yeah, obviously. So now the thing is, I said, listen, now what your dad is telling me, and this is where it'll tie into all the people's well-being and the mental health and all the rest of it later. Because what her dad was saying was, he wasn't saying, I want you to run round to your sister's house, knock on the door and say, oh, dad's come through, let's be best fucking friends, right? That wasn't the message. The message was, for the last 10 years, your emotional trauma from falling out with your sister and your brother-in-law is affecting your happiness and your life. And your dad is saying to me, you need to cut the cord and you need to let it go. Because people, without even realizing it, you are just a bundle of emotions and energy and feelings that are connected to everything. So if you've had a fallout with someone and it's on your mind constantly, or you're very bitter about the way a job ended, or you've got anger towards a past experience, and that could be from 20, 30 years ago, at some level, you are still sending out that frequency and energy to the universe. And it is affecting your life today. Now, before you press record, you did mention, why are so many people going through this difficult time at the moment, right? Where everything seems to be breaking down.
That's one of my big questions. Why are so many people suffering hardships, especially good people? Because I mentioned to you off air that a lot of my friends are going through some major struggles in life, and they're basically good people. They want the best, they try and live in right action, and yet they're all suffering. Everyone I know is suffering, and everyone they know is suffering. It seems to be everywhere at the moment. So one of my big questions for you today was, what's going on? Why are we all going through such hardships? It didn't used to be like this. If I go back 15, 20, 25 years of my life, most people I knew seemed to be getting along okay. But these days, there's struggles and hardships and problems for everyone. So something's going on here. And this was one of my big questions. I was going to ask you later on, but seeing as we're there in the conversation, what's your take on why so many people are going through so much shit?
Well, I do personally feel like what's happening on a bigger stage, like on a world stage, is also happening on an individual stage. Because people have to realize energy is at a vibration and everything is connected on every single level, right? So we look at the world now, what's happening with financial collapse in money and industries. We look at wars that are happening. So then what's happening is, so you could look at the bigger picture and then put that into your own individual life, it's the same destruction and breakdown and war. Now, the thing is, if you were giving someone a tarot card, right, and they turned over the tower, which is a card in the pack, and what that represents is everything is breaking down. The old system is crumbling, right? But not just on a big scale, on an individual scale. Now, this is going to be rippled straight across the world for me, and it's happening, and people are seeing it happen in their own life, and it's the destruction and the breakdown of things like their relationships, their financial position, their working career, right? Now, the positive side of that is, and now people tend not to look that far ahead, because while you're going through the difficult period, such as the pain and the difficulties and looking for the answers, it's very hard then to see, after every breakdown and death is the rebirth of something new. Now, as a planet and as in individuals, over the next coming months and years, people are going to see the birth of things new in their life. There is going to be a fantastic change. Now, you ask why good people seem to be feeling it the most, and that's probably because they're very empathic. And also, I would like to think, without evidence, a lot of their karma is quickly being addressed, right? Because they're going to come out of this quickly, more quickly than some of the others. A lot of people over the next few years, Mark, when everything breaks down, are going to be running around like headless chickens, wanting to know why the likes of Mark Devlin and Anthony Critchley are not panicking. Why are you not bothered? Right? Now, we can look in it, because I know you're a big lover of the music. So let's take Madonna when she's on stage and she says, not everybody's coming to the future and not everybody's going to last. Now, you know as well as I do, synchronicities, symbolism and everything, which is going to be their downfall, right? Which is a whole different thing. But what she's actually saying is that is the truth. Not everybody is going to last. A lot of people are going to sort of, suicides will go up. People are just going to crumble. People are going to be running around like headless chickens.
Well, not to mention the arms spears and all the victims of that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, but that is part of the destruction, right? What's been happening to everybody, right? Now, the thing is, and this is when we look at everything from that higher perspective, and we look at everything from an energy point of view instead of a human rational thinking point of view, right? Then we can look at things completely different, right? So what is happening in the world with death and destruction and everything else, something is coming to an end. It's like the end of an empire. Do you know what I mean? And they often say the Roman Empire, I think so, they said they put a circus on every day in the last days of Rome to try and distract people. So if you look at the world today, look what's happening. Every day there's a distraction. They're trying to, mask it with something. Someone's gone missing. There's someone on an aeroplane who's not real, or whatever.
It's often referred to as Clown World, isn't it? Clown World 2023.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the problem is people who are sort of not open to another way of thinking or are set in stone in their beliefs and everything else, their head is just going to explode, isn't it? Because they're not prepared to look at things. People have already got their narrative, their programming from when they were a child of how to look at the world. So if you're not prepared to look at the world from a completely different angle, everything what's going to happen or is happening now is just going to just blow your brain.
It all seems to have escalated since COVID. That seems to have been the catalyst for it all.
Mark, if we're going through some kind of great awakening process at the moment, which a lot of people talk about, and I firmly, feel that the earth is changing. There is a change happening, and I think consciousness itself is being, the veil is being lifted. We are in a very, very strange time. Now, that would say to me that people are in a process of awakening, and that will bring about an initiation stage. Now, the spiritual awakening that I had and the spiritual awakening that Kev had brought very difficult challenges. Now, that could be happening now globally. People, like Kev was saying about there's wars happening. Everything happens with frequencies and vibrations, as we know. So what's going on in Gaza right now is going to be causing a massive problem energetically around the world. So people are going to be going through an initiation, and there's like I was reading this morning and I thought it was fantastic the way this guy put it. It's a shamanic descent into hell, effectively. So you're going to get suffering. You're going to be battling with demons, be it your own demons, but if you want to think in an esoteric sense as well, there are energetic forces that obviously play a part in this. There is. We cannot be so arrogant to feel that we are just these human meat suits with the five senses. There is so much more going on. So there's a quote by I can't even pronounce his name properly, Sir Aurobindo, I think his name. It says, "None can reach heaven who has not passed through hell." So this seems to be some sort of initiation, and we are witnessing our friends, colleagues, families, loved ones all going through something right now, and it's painful to watch, but we're going to have to sit through it.
Right. Just picking up on something you said there, Kev.
Yeah.
I may have got this wrong, but I think it was from A Passage to India, the David Lean film, where Alec Guinness is playing Professor Godbally. He's this Hindu sort of spiritual teacher. And I think it was in this film where one of the other characters says, "Oh, I'm going through some hardships right now." And he says, "Oh, good." And he says, "Well, why'd you say good?" And he says, "Because everything is ebbs and flows. Everything fluctuates, including energy and epochs of time that we pass through. So if you're going through suffering and you're going through a hard time, that means that it's going to come to an end at some point. And when it does, you're going to start enjoying abundance and joy and happiness in your life, because that's just the way it goes."
Yes.
So it may have been some other popular culture reference, but I do remember that quote, and some spiritual teacher was saying, well, it's a good thing that you're suffering, because that means you're going to come through it at some point. And hopefully we're coming to a process where a lot of that is going to end and we're going to see some better times.
Well, Mark, and this is like from my life experience, Mark. So if we look at, like, again, and I want to keep coming back to people understanding that everything is energy, and energy is intelligence, right? Because, so, the modern day new age, bullshit, because that's bullshit as well, by the way. But anyway, the law of attraction, obviously. Now, for someone like me, I was doing the law of attraction 30 years ago before I even knew what it was. It was only then through my spiritual awakening that I knew and I started to learn about it. So again, I ended up as a kid born into this world where, the whole story of like trauma and abuse and split families and all that crap, right? Then basically what I'd done then was I put all my focus and energy, and this is one of the weird things. So I actually drawed, and this was before I knew anything about law of attraction and everything. I actually drawed a picture of a shop, and I drawed what it would be called with the windows and the door and the ramp and people queuing outside and everything. And then a few years later, I was stood across the road from the shop I'd then purchased. And it was the exact same shop that was on the picture. Right? Now, I've got loads of examples of famous people who have used the law of attraction, whether that's Conor McGregor, Kevin Ant, and all these people. They've all used it in their life to their advantage. But I was somebody who didn't know about it back then. So I was already doing it without knowing, if you like. So I'd gone from literally poverty with not a penny in my pocket to building a multi-million-pound company on paper with several properties and everything else. I then personally believe, because of my emotional vibrations and frequencies that I give off from being as a kid, I never felt deserving of having what I now had. So in turn, I destroyed it and I lost everything. Because, and I always say to people, making £1 million or building a business is easy. Making you feel that you deserve it is a completely different thing, right? And that's why you see people who come into money, they lose it very quickly. because it's their frequency and vibrations. They don't know how to hold on to it because they never felt that they deserved it in the first place. But that is a programming of a social conditioning when you're younger. So this is where some people do inner child work and, you know, and all the past stuff. I'm not a big advocate of that, but I know people and it works for them. So everybody's got to follow what works for them. But you do have to cut the cords of why wouldn't you deserve it? And also, why not you? Because if not you, who? Right? So when I lost everything, and at the time, and listen, I spent the best part of 10 years, over 10 years, in a black hole. Literally depression, anxiety, phobias, things. I'd gone from an entrepreneur, like with a multi-million-pound business on paper, to I took a job peeling potatoes and washing up at a sink in a restaurant so nobody would talk to me. My self-esteem, my self-worth was so low that I couldn't hold a conversation with people. I didn't want you to talk to me. I couldn't handle confrontation. I couldn't handle responsibility. You know, and then when all this was happening to me, then Spirit decided to give me another kick up the arse. So then they pushed me down the stairs and I broke my back. So now I couldn't walk. So not only I couldn't talk to people, now I couldn't walk. So now I couldn't work. So, and then back in the day, there used to be a thing called Wonga loans or payday loans, right? And then I remember having to take out this £200 loan to buy a car that wasn't even roadworthy, you know, to try and get the kids to school. So I look at my life and I'm thought, why? You know, after finding Spirit and all these amazing things, and I thought I'd found the answers to life, if you like, why are you punishing me? Why am I going through this unbelievable negative experience? And my life continued to get worse and worse. And I got stripped back. And it was looking back now, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because when I had absolutely nothing, Mark, where you can't take anything else from me. You've already took my self-esteem. You've took my self-mastery. You've took my money. You've took my friends. You've took my family. You know, you've humiliated me. I had nothing else to take. And then I found happiness. And when we have nothing, sometimes that's when we find everything.
So there we all were thinking that we were a baker, a pub landlord, a DJ. I mean, if you'd asked me 20 years ago, who are you? What are you? I'd have said, well, I'm a DJ. I play tunes and that's it. And here we are having this conversation at the end of 2023 and things are rather different. And I come to realize that I'm a bit more than just a DJ and we're all a bit more than what we thought we were. So there's this famous quote that you often get: life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. So you think you got your life all mapped out. You said there, Kev, that you wanted this empire of bakeries, but it seems creation or God, the Most High, Spirit, has other ideas for us. And we often get sent down very different roads to what we ourselves had planned, right?
Yeah, 100%, Mark. And the thing is as well, as you can imagine, as a 28, 30-year-old man, having this now unexpected, life-changing, upside-down turmoil, a lot of people, and rightly so, I remember going through a period where people thought, oh, Kev from the bakery, he's gone nuts. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, so you have to sort of battle, as well as trying to hold down a young family, you're trying to battle with the whole thing of what's happening to you. You're trying to look at it as in, is it medical? Has something happened to me? But these emotions and feelings and experiences you're going through, there's something in it. So all you can do is be true and trust. I knew what was happening to me, and I knew it wasn't a medical, psychotic breakdown, that kind of thing. And I had that validated to me, which I talk about, in my book and I've mentioned many times. But I had that validated to me through spirit and through experiences, what happened, right? So I had all the proof that I needed from that side of it. But I wanted to just quickly pick up, because when I mentioned before about I found happiness when I'd lost everything, right? I used to be very good at telling other people what they should do in their life, but never implementing it in my own life. So for the first time now, I decided to take all these years of experience, what had happened to me, and all the information that I'd learned from Benjamin Drake, my spirit guide, and all these experiences. And I thought, I'm going to use them in my life. So for the first time, I started to do the meditation. I started to do the affirmations. I started to do the visualization and the boards and everything else what goes with it. And then in 2014, 2015, my life started to change. And I went from not a penny in the pocket again, with absolutely nothing, debt up to my eyeballs and all the rest of it. In a very short period of time, miracles started to happen. And before I knew it, I was back to having the multi-million-pound companies. But this time it was a building company. Not interested in building whatsoever. But now I've ended up with multi-billion-pound building company. And you're like, how did that happen? Well, it's because I trusted in the process of, the ebbs and the flows of the energy, and I started to implement everything what I'd been told into my life. And then I saw firsthand the miracles happening. Now, the thing is, when things are going well in your life and you're sort of feeling high and you're in a state of joy and contentment, we tend not to we think we're always going to be like that. But really, that's when we should be thinking about, we don't want to drop down the scales, back into lack and fear and worry and
it can
stress.
work the other way as well, can't it? If you're experiencing anxiety, stress, fear, depression, you can think, oh, this is my life now. I'm never going to lift out of this. This is me for the rest of my days. Can often feel like that.
Yeah, and then you end up in a cycle, and you start creating more and more of it, and it is difficult. And when I mean, Kev will explain his side, but when I lost the pub, it was probably my third cycle of deep anxiety over a period of 10, 15 years of traumatic experiences, one thing after the other. And it was quite interesting, really, that I had a phone call from a complete stranger, a guy who came to the pub. Because during the pandemic period, I'd have many guests on what we would call Truth or Tuesdays. And we would have people come in doing talks of how to get through the bullshit that was happening at that period. And this particular gentleman had travelled all the way down from Inverness to spend time at the pub. I had no idea who this guy was, but he phoned me up after the pub had shut, and I'd fallen quite poorly. And the first thing he said to me was, you need to remember who you are. And my ego was going, well, who am I? What am I? What use am I? And he helped me. He guided me really well in a period of self-mastery to an understanding that we are so much more than our programming and our ego identification, because that's all it is. We just identify with all these societal and your parental, your peer groups and blah, blah, blah. And none of it's you. The body's not you. The identifications are not you. It's all a lie. Everything's a lie. The real you is in there waiting to spark out. And it's a process of self-mastery, really, to get yourself forward and realize, actually, you are so much more.
What I would say onto that as well is, when people are going through periods of stress, depression, bipolar, and all these kind of things, again, I'm going to keep bringing it back to understanding energy as well, because what happens is, when you're in that negative state or that feeling, no, and this is the same as if someone is not now suffering with mental health. Maybe you're just in a position of lack. Like you think, oh, I need to tighten my purse strings. I can't afford to shop at Tesco this week. I need to go to Aldi, whatever, right? So what you're doing is, you are sending out energy. And you are sending out energy of, I cannot afford this. Lack. Now, this is what the biggest trick you have to, where people would have heard this saying, fake it till you make it, or if you tell a lie enough times, it becomes reality, right? If you're going through any of these negative periods in your life, you have to flip the switch, because all you're going to do is keep creating more of the same. So if you're sending out lack, you're going to create lack. If you're sending out depression, you're going to create depression. And I watched this firsthand. I watched my mom spend over 30 years of her life trapped inside the four walls of her own home. Because after the birth of my sister, she developed some kind of anxiety or phobia, which she thought she was going to die. Now, when I went through a negative experience in my life, and I had to witness myself firsthand experience phobias and trauma and negative situations, that trigger of what my mom had done all them years, I thought, there's no way I'm doing that. Now, I wasn't one of these who felt like I wanted to do inner child work and everything else. I'm a bit impatient. So what I did in the midst of an anxiety attack and a phobia attack, I literally said, kill me then. Kill me. Do your worst. Because I tell you what, there's nothing more powerful than challenging the energy, what's happening to you, the emotion and the feeling, what's happening to you. You turn it on its head, it loses instantly all its power. It's like a bully. And when you stand up to it, it loses all its power. And that could be the same as if people are scared of, the devil in religious, whatever. It's only powerful if you give it energy. And when you understand that, you turn everything upside down on its head. And you start to look at things from a completely different way. Now, I was fortunate enough, but not at the time, because at the time I went through the most negative, painful experience ever in my life. But Spirit showed me what is happening, what normal people do not see. So most people have their five senses and they go about their daily life and probably, oh, I can't believe that, that idiot's just pulled out in front of me, or that person there, what they staring at and all that kind of stuff, right? Energy showed me firsthand what happens to you when you are on a low negative vibration. And because energy is intelligent, it showed me how you then basically get attacked while your defenses are low. So, if we want to bring in, I don't know, the Force and Star Wars and all this kind of stuff for people to try and understand it, if you could just imagine you have like an energy field around you. And at the moment, you're going through a lot of troubles or anxieties or phobias or lack or depression, or you're worrying. Your energy field, it's almost like the power's been turned down low. But while it's down low, other energy can attack it. Now, this is why it's so important to get your energy levels back up to high, even if you have to lie to yourself. Like, your life might be crap, but you can't allow yourself to be in those low energy places, because you're just going to get attacked by more. Now, for me, if we wanted to look at it on a bigger scale, I think certain people know this. And that is why you have the news. This is why you have the negative music. This is why you have basically consciousness is ruling everything. And people who understand that if they can control the narrative, if they can control consciousness, if they can put you in a perpetual place of fear, of negative, of worrying, your defenses are low, which means you can constantly be attacked by everything. Now, me and Anthony, we have different views, because Anthony always used to be one of these. He'd be on Twitter and everything, or X, as you want to call it now. And someone would make a comment, or the Truther movement, and they're all having their 10 pence worth, aren't they? They're all putting a comment in there, you stupid bastard and all that, whatever, right? Me, nothing. Because I said, why are you giving it energy? Give it nothing. As soon as you give something no energy, it dissolves, it dies, it can't survive. Now, if you wanted to go down the marketing route, big chains like McDonald's, it's in your consciousness 24/7. Adverts, kids talking about it. Every time you walk down the street, there's a big... So Whoever controls the narrative of consciousness is controlling what's happening in the world. Now, that plays into things like, so Elon Musk at the moment is talking about, oh, he wants to go to Mars, right? But the thing is, we can go down all that, but the bottom line is, in consciousness at the moment, there isn't the technology or the capability to get to Mars. But if you make everybody start to talk and think about it, and the consciousness now is, oh, we're going to Mars, just like they did with the moon and all the rest of it. Now you change. I think someone who said to Nixon at the time, all you have to do is make people believe that they went to Mars or believe that they went to the moon. It's irrelevant whether they actually did or didn't. All you have to do is plant the seed that it's possible or that it might have been done. So for me, there is certain people who understand how all this energy works, and they manipulate it for their own benefits and for their own greed and their own power. Now, who that is and whatever, I mean, listen, the average person on the street might just think that's the likes of, BlackRock, Vanguard, all these kind of companies. There's other people out there who believe extraterrestrials and galactic and listen, I'm not really bothered what anyone else thinks, because also I understand how energy works. And if your energy and conscious thoughts are constantly that you believe in UFOs or the Q conspiracy, you will create that reality. You will create that reality. So everything what's happening to us, we are constantly creating something, right in front of us. So, and for me, that's why there's so much contradiction and nobody's right or wrong. So there's so much to it, Mark.
Can I also add what Kev said there about the auric field, if you like, your energy field, and if you get cracks in it and you're feeling crap, and there is an opportunity there for negative entities, if you like, to find their way in there and create more problems. Now, an individual that's feeling shit might need to look at certain things that they do day to day. Certain habits that they have, for example, certain foods that they're eating. Do they drink alcohol quite a lot? There are certain things. Do they watch porn? Are they up to no good? How are they feeling? What are they
big
doing?
pharma meds?
Exactly. I mean, all these things are designed to bring you down in a negative way. TV, turn it off, for a start. That's your starting point. Start looking at your pineal gland, start getting the fluoride out of your water and start drinking fresh stuff. Start looking at better food, a better diet. Go and get out in nature. Go and find a way of raising your vibration, that everything is there for you. It's very difficult when you are down and out because you start wallowing in pity, but you can start with gratitude as well. It's little things that can start building you up, and every day you get a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger. We are at war. This is a spiritual war. There's no two ways about it in my eyes. Each individual, the pure souls on this planet are at a battle. But the battle is so within as well. If you can conquer the inner demons, the outer demons have got no chance.
Yeah, I was going to add to that as well. I've just lost my train of thought. I've lost my train of thought because, Mark, when I was in the kitchen making a cup of tea while you were on the phone, I just quickly closed my eyes and asked energy or spirit around me, is there anything you want me to mention? To Mark, right? Now, obviously, it's only a quick flash. Because obviously it's, again, so people have to understand the process of how it works, because there's a difference between psychic information and then actually being connected by a spirit, but that's a whole different subject as well. But I'll just quickly tell you what I saw right now, even if it makes no sense to you, but I know that that it means something. Okay, so as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw a gentleman wind the window down in his car, right? Now, in that car, the gentleman was, what I was being showed was my partner's granddad, and his name was Tom, right? Now, he passed over with cancer, right? Now, also, while I was watching that, I could hear the song clearly playing by Queen, Hammer to Fall, right?
I was looking at the video to that song last night.
Right. Right. Now, So what I'm saying now, that this is where people need to understand what's happening. Now, do you think spirit or energy or psychic is just coming through to no? There will be a million things in that one thing that I've seen what it wants to tell you, right? So not only like the fact that you're saying now, whoa, I was looking at that, whatever, right? That's amazing. I will guarantee you the fact that I can hear that word hammer to fall, you were waiting on a decision in your life on something, or you're waiting for something to fit into place, or there could even be a legal thing around you because I can feel that. Right. So I know there's something that to talk about that where you're waiting for something all to fall into place. Also, the fact that you were looking at that last night, I'm just seeing that. It'd be worth looking at the lyrics to that actual song because that is the way energy works, because the messages are all around us. Right. Now, also, the fact that I saw my partner's granddad, right, that could be a link. Like I also as well, the look, and I'm not going to do this here. There might be something there where I need to talk to you about. That could be your father or your granddad. There could be a name to Tom that's relevant in your energy at the moment. What I'm trying to say is there will be a million things that spirit are quickly trying to tell me to get across to you. Now, all I was doing was just making a cup of tea and just say, tell me something what's relevant to Mark. Now, what is the chances of that?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I'm just calling up the lyrics to that song here. I'll just take a look at those. And while I do that, I just want to relate a dream that I had this week to you. I think it might be of interest because I don't normally remember dreams. They're just gone as soon as I wake. But for some reason, this one has stayed with me. I've been having these very bizarre sort of hallucinatory dreams lately. So this one involved Donald Trump for some reason. So I was in an elevator, got into this elevator. Donald Trump's there. I think it was in Trump Towers. It's this very, very tall skyscraper. And he had a briefcase full of cash. And he handed me the briefcase. And then I got out the elevator, didn't know where I was. I was lost. I seemed to be in a different building altogether. And I was trying to find my bearings. And then I just became aware that Donald Trump had decided he wanted this briefcase back from me. So he's trying to find me. Very, very strange. No explanation for that myself. Let me just look at the lyrics to the
Can I just jump in there with you, though, there, Mark?
Yeah, do. Yeah.
So what happens is when dreams are... So ultimately, what your dream is actually giving you information, right? Now, the fact that it's Donald J. Trump or even the cash, right, may be significant, maybe not, but we can look at that. But I'll tell you what's happening there is, because you were going up in the elevator, right? People like yourself, people who are going through difficult periods in their life, people who are very empathic, at the moment, you're all being upgraded, right? You're all being up-leveled. And that is what's happening in the lift. Your spirit, soul, your journey, you are actually being raised to another level, what you've not currently been on. So someone like for me, and everyone has their own abilities. So someone who's like for me, who's very visualistic and clairvoyant and clairaudient, I know myself over the last few months, my ability has been raised. I am seeing things like I never used to work like this, but just lately I've been sat in a room and I'm just watching the television screen above someone's head. And without even having to close my eyes. I'm just literally, it's becoming so easy to tell people the information and what I need to tell them. So I know my own ability. Now, I'm somebody who doesn't even do it anymore. Do you know what I mean? Now, maybe that's my calling back and I might end up, who knows? I don't know. But I just know there's truth in it. But like I made a promise 15 years ago to God, give me another platform and I'll tell everybody what you want me to tell them. But I refuse to do it from the platform that I was in 15 years ago. But now things have changed and now we do have a new platform. We do have the Great Michigan thing. So anybody who wants to listen to it, everybody who wants to learn, who wants to understand things or life from a different angle, yeah, too right. I'm going to have them conversations with people. So I do think, again, these people, like you said, and your friends, I do think you're going through a transition. You're being up-leveled. That doesn't actually, your everyday life, it doesn't seem to feel like that when you're going through this shit at the moment. But I guarantee you, we'll be having a coffee in 6 months' time and we'll saying, fucking hell, makes a bit more sense now.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, Ant, that you see ones everywhere and you looked at the clock and it was 11:11. Yeah. And with me, I see my birth date everywhere. That's my phone. So my birthday is 12th of May and I see 1205 everywhere I look. And I just thought to glance at the clock while we were recording earlier, and it was 12:05. Of course it was. How could it be any other time? Just at that moment, I thought to look. And I've just pulled up the lyrics to that Queen song, Hammer to Fall.
Yes.
So some of them include, here we stand or here we fall. History won't care at all. And then later, every night and every day, a little piece of you is falling away. And then what else? Let's just go a bit further. Rich or poor or famous, for you, truth is all the same. Yeah. What the hell are we fighting for? Just surrender and it won't hurt at all. Just got time to say your prayers while you're waiting for the hammer to fall. So,
wow. Do you know, and the thing is, Mark, as well, so like people who are all open to listening to things like that resonates with me just the same as when you looked at the clock there. You know, when you feel it and you see it, it means it's not just 12:05. It's like, oh my God, what's the chance? Do you know what I mean? So, but even in those amazing lyrics, what would have been channeled by the great Freddie Mercury, you know, or I don't know if it was Roger, whoever wrote the song at the time.
Freddie wrote that song.
Yeah. So, but again, so all this information, great artists and everything, it's all around them. And what they do is they channel the lyrics. So every great masterpiece, whether it's a song or a piece of art, it's already formulated in your thoughts and in your mind, and then it's put onto canvas or onto paper. So, but what they're saying there is as well, is like, you do have to surrender, because one of the biggest things, what we've always said is you have to let go. And if you really trust in everything that people, well, you know, what we're saying, and you really trust in the universe, and you really trust in energy, you really do have to let go and trust it to do its magic, because every time you resist, you create a blockage and you're slowing it down. Now, that is so difficult for people to do, you know, but, and I guarantee if you can let go, then miracles start to happen. Now, the other thing is what people can do as well, if anyone's listening to this, you can call back your lost energy and your lost soul parts, right? So if you, in your life, you've been, you know, listen, by the time we get to a middle of, you know, our ages, if you like, there would have been things that have happened in our life what have really ripped us apart and took part of us, right? You know, whether that's divorce, financial loss, losing parent, whatever. You can recall by just calling out to the, you know, whether you want to call it the angels or the universe, and just by affirming, I am now calling back my energy. I am now calling back my lost soul parts. Now, what you'll do is as well, I mean, I see it all the time. You'll see these little tiny golden balls of energy just floating through the front door, coming back and coming back to you. Now, that might sound completely like bonkers, but in your physical sense, you will start to feel stronger, and you'll start to feel like, whoa, it's almost like putting a glove back on. It's like I'm, you know, this fits. I feel stronger. I feel like my old self again. Because every time your energy is being attacked by whatever you want to, you know, acknowledge it as, a bit of you is being like ripped away. But it doesn't have to be like that.
Like in the song there, every night and every day, a little piece of you is falling away.
Well, do you know what? Fantastic.
Exactly.
And that is it. That's great. Do you know what I mean?
Like Kev's saying there as well, the shamans would do it in their tribes. There'd be a shaman there that would do a soul journey with if an individual was going through trauma or a period of pain. They would work together as a community. That's the beauty of the tribal side of things, is together they would do it. But the shaman would guide that individual through a journey, and they would be able to retrace where they'd lost fragments of their soul through their traumatic periods and bring them back. You know, so they've been doing it for centuries.
Yeah.
It's just that we've lost touch on what we are capable of due to our programming.